I am live and my camera slides. Let me see if I can hook this up here. I'm not like all out of frame. Okay, I guess this is fine. So this is another installment of the dirty work. We're gonna wait for a couple people to check in. Typically I'm waiting 3 minutes. So let's see. I'm gonna try not to look at myself. I think the camera, sorry for this. I think the camera's on here. I'm back home, and I am back home, meaning I'm in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. And this is just a continuation of my 30 days of the dirty work. I've been doing this vlog on Instagram, and I'm just testing it out here on YouTube to see if those of you who are in my community are interested in kind of seeing the day-to-day, just having a little more engagement than usual. I'm testing different settings, and I'm testing different ideas. So I hope that, make sure you smack that like button, visitor. Now I'm doing this one on my cell phone from my living room, and it's different than how I usually set up. Well, not how I usually set up, but the previous setup where when I was traveling in New York, that I had my DSLR, this is my cell phone, and this ring light that was gifted to me. So I'm testing this all out. If you like this, just let me know. If you don't like it, also let me know. Chances are that more often than not, I'll be shooting from my actual office for the next 30 days, not even the next 30 days, maybe the next 5 days. I'll be shooting from my office. I have a setup there. That'll be a DSLR setup. I might shoot from the common area of my office. Hey, Suzette, how are you? Welcome. Thank you for coming by. My office is in, well, I have a few of them. My office in Fort Lauderdale is in downtown Fort Lauderdale, in Spaces. What is that called? It's, I guess, it's one of the Regis Group's counter to WeWork. So it is the WeWork version for Regis Suites. So it's on Los Olas Boulevard in Fort Lauderdale, downtown. Then I have my own shared office environment, which is Solus Spaces, that's on 35th Street. And then I have Avalanche Cares offices in Queens Village, New York, and that would round out my 3 offices. So thank you guys for coming. It's now 3 minutes. I've allowed people to come in. It's Saturday, so I'm gonna try to keep it concise as possible. Now, for those of you who are new to the dirty work, or those of you who are on my YouTube channel, and this is kind of new for you since I don't do that many lives, the dirty work is something that I started on Instagram. And it was really meant to focus on the day-to-day in my life, or the day-to-day in an entrepreneur's life. Not the ENTP life, but just my day-to-day and how I manage my businesses and how I maneuver. Meant to give a little more insight into the realities of pursuing entrepreneurship. The way it is now, I think entrepreneurs and startups are glorified in a way, and social media obviously has skewed reality big time. And I wanted to be able to deliver something to the social media world that was authentic, real, and showed you the ups and downs that someone like me may experience, rather than just the highlights, the money, the things, that sort of thing. So that's where the dirty work came from. So it's a dirty work between success and failure. I start this out with the tip of the day. My tip of the day is move. And by move, I mean move away from where you have been born. And the reason I say that, I'm the child of immigrant parents who moved from Haiti to the United States. And they moved in hopes of opportunity. And what I've noticed with people who are immigrants, or even move like cross country or something along those lines, is they're putting themselves into a new and uncomfortable environment. And when you put yourself into new and uncomfortable environments, you, without doubt, grow or perish, right? And people aren't going to die for moving, so you more or less grow. Now, for me, I was born and raised in New York City, spent pretty much my entire life there. I moved to Stony Brook, Long Island, which is, I don't know, 50 miles away from New York. And that was the furthest that I had lived from my birthplace. There was a statistic that I saw that said something like most humans don't move more than 50 miles from where they were born. And I remember when I saw that, I was like, that's pretty crazy. But looking at childhood friends, that sort of thing, that is the reality. Most people stay in that familiar zone. And because of that, they don't do much growing. They don't see much of the world. They don't see many different people, different customs, different food choices, different religions. They just grow with a very narrow perspective of the world. Now that I moved to Fort Lauderdale, it's not much of a big change for me because it's still the United States. The language is still English, and things function very much the same. I'm only 2.5 hours from what I would consider to be the home place of New York. But I plan on continuing to move throughout the country and throughout the world. But what I'm seeing from my move is just a new breath of life, change. And that change is noticeable whenever I go back and forth. Things in New York are cool as far as like making money. New York's a great city to move forward financially. It's also a great city to go broke in because things are so damn expensive. But it's not a good city for living life. It's not a good city for finding yourself. You get kind of caught up in work. That's expensive. Can't afford. If you could clarify on that, Suzette, or expand on that, I would love to hear that. What you mean by that? Do you mean New York is too expensive or moving frequently is too expensive? But either way, what I found is that in moving out of New York, I was faced with learning a new environment, expanding my business here, learning the real estate uh, game here, which is a little bit different than New York, but not much different. And I'm sorry, I keep saying I'm trying to remove that from my vocabulary. But what I learned is that it's actually a positive thing to kind of be in a different environment. I travel frequently. I always have. So being outside of home is not nothing new to me, but relocating is. And ultimately, why I'm making it the tip of the day is I really believe that people can gain so much from just changing their scenery. They get away from just that routine of life, and I think once you break the routine, you start to learn more about yourself. Are you a shy person or not? Or were you shy in your native town, but forced to be more social in your new town because you were lonely? Or were you extremely comfortable and never challenged yourself, like to find a job or a new job? You just kind of worked in the local factory because everybody worked in the local factory or the local employer. And now that you're in a new environment, you have to learn new skills and maybe work in an industry that is not, I guess, familiar to you. And all those things ultimately harden you and strengthen you for whatever life is going to throw at you. And once you have moved and you've challenged yourself in that way, you now have a point of reference that whenever things are kind of hard or uncertain, you'll say, well, I remember that time that I moved from New York to Fort Lauderdale, that time that I moved from New York to Brazil or New York to Portugal or wherever, whatever country it is that you go to, and that I was nervous and essentially I figured it out, I'm still here. Those points of reference really propel you throughout life and whenever there is another hardship. So that's why the tip of the day is to move. My next move is to Colombia, Medellin, Colombia. And I'm sorry, I'm touching things on the screen. But my next move is to Medellin, Colombia. I went to Medellin for the first time, I believe, in 2017. Cool country, cool city, and cost of living is fantastic. I would say the lifestyle of someone who's spending $2,000 in Medellin is equivalent to probably spending $6,000 in most U.S. cities, as far as lifestyle spend, type of apartment you're gonna be in, entertainment, that sort of thing. So it's about a third, whatever your lifestyle is in the United States, you could achieve the same lifestyle in Colombia for a third of the price. A beer, for instance, if I were to get in Aguilar, which is the Budweiser of Colombia, that would cost me 2,000 pesos, which is currently about 60 cents, which is, like I said, you do the math, it's really a fraction of what I would pay for a Budweiser here in the States. And that's like at a store or some dude selling beers on the street, right? which is something that happens there. But ultimately, that's my next stop. I'll probably be between Colombia and Florida. I mentioned this yesterday. After that, it's probably going to be somewhere in Europe, then back to Brazil or somewhere else. But I wanted to just kind of touch in on that and make sure that I'm kind of encouraging the people who might have that desire in them to shake it up a bit, that maybe the shake that you need or the change that you need is to move. And the further you move and the more extreme the move, I think the more extreme the benefit or the outcome is going to be. So potentially moving to a place that you have to learn a new language would be such a character building experience. You have to learn a new language, you have to learn new customs, you have to learn how to maneuver. You know, think about all the immigrants that are in the United States. I think people don't think about this as often as they should, but think about those immigrants who came here and the language is foreign. All the forms are foreign. The way that you work and interact, foreign. And then they somehow assimilate and become part of our society. That's huge. You should have that same experience and try that in another country. At this point, that's pretty much all I have to say on my end. If anybody has any questions, please feel free. I saw that Suzette mentioned that that's expensive, can't afford it, meaning moving frequently. Traveling is great. I don't think it's that idealistic. Bogota is all right. Bogota, I really don't like Bogota as a city. It's reminiscent of all big cities in the country, or in this country, or big cities in the world, I would say. More people, more food options, more accessibility to things, but I think it's kind of dry in Bogota, meaning the people are a little more cold. And I think that's a consequence of bigger cities. I like Medellin better because it's a smaller city. I think it's about 4 million people population, and the people are just warmer and nicer. So that's why I like Medellin over Bogota, for sure. As far as what Suzette is saying here, she's like, moving frequently is not ideal. Why do you say that? I think moving frequently is actually pretty cool, especially if you learn to detach yourself from like material possessions, because this stuff that we accumulate, couches, furniture, all that crap, I mean, it eventually becomes worthless. So as long as you have clothes on your back and you could provide for yourself, I think it's pretty good. You need money. I like stability. Okay, so that's different. Moving frequently and money are different than your desire for stability. You like stability, okay. You prefer comfort. I think the human condition is to adjust to what is comfortable. Just like why we like sitting down, why we don't like exercising, why We don't like to challenge people who have different beliefs than us. When we see something happening on the street that doesn't agree with our moral code, the majority of people will stand by and move on, right? So I think those things are different. Money could always be figured out. I tell the people that all the time. People who present money as a reason for not doing something, money is just a bartering tool. And if you understand that you could position yourself to capture more of it, so that you could, trade those credits. Once you get that concept down, it starts to become easier and easier to aggregate money. But stability, I don't know. I think stability is like, and I don't want to come off as condescending, but I think stability is like the cousin of laziness, and you want to be careful with that, because we become so much better as human beings when we're challenged and pushed, and when we get out of our comfort zone. So I would challenge you to kind of try to abandon that comfort. No, I didn't say it's lazy. I said it's the cousin to laziness. I'm not calling you lazy or anything like that. I just think it's familiar. It's like, this is what I know. This is what feels safe. So I'm gonna stay here. And there's so much more to gain when you step out of that pocket, when you step out of that comfort zone. So that's why I say it's kind of like laziness is also a place of comfort. People who are labeled lazy are going to be people who don't really want to go above and beyond or change their circumstances. They kind of remain in the same place. But once you start to kind of push that, yeah, complacent. That's what I'm saying. I think sometimes words get kind of segmented, and once words get segmented like that, it's like if you trigger me with a word that I associate with negative, then you kind of poking me in a certain way. But I don't mean it in that way. Maybe sometimes my vocabulary is a little too limited. But that's the way that I see it, and I would say, all the time, whenever somebody tells me that, I have one of my best friends is in the same situation, except his situation is pretty bizarre. He wants change badly. He wants to leave New York City. He wants to be in a different environment. He wants to, try different career paths. But once he gets his mind around all the pieces to that, like, okay, I'm gonna have to buy a plane ticket, then I'm gonna have to secure residency if I move to another country, then I'm gonna have to find a way to afford my lifestyle in that other country. He starts building up this wall of like impossibility, and then reverts back to the environment that he's claiming is not suitable for him. And I always tell him the same thing. It's like, yo, listen, man, you have a US passport and you have US credit. You have so much more than most immigrants have when they come to this country. You have carte blanche to pretty much go to, maybe 90% of the countries, maybe 95% of the countries without a visa. And then you have spending power. And you have the English language, which is usually preferred, and you're college educated. All these things that's like, yo, dude, you have everything that you need to establish a life somewhere else. But he ends up building up these walls, and after he builds up the walls, he reverts back to comfort and stability. But at some point in time, that's only going to build more and more resentment with yourself and with your surroundings. So my way of dealing with that is that the minute I start to feel that way, I got to put myself into something new, into something uncomfortable, and I feel that I grow from that. That's why I recommend it to other people. It's whatever that stability is. Look at it as the enemy of you kind of materializing your dreams, because then it's going to be like, oh, I always wanted to walk the Great Wall of China, or I always wanted to learn a new language, or I always wanted to travel the world and see the world, and then cancer hits you, or you lose your job that you've been working for 30 years and no one will hire you because you're now beyond the age of being marketable. I've seen it happen so many times. I've seen it happen to family members. I've seen it happen to friends, that I just don't think it's an acceptable way to be. So when you get into the habit of moving frequently as, for some people, for me, it's like every 6 months would be cool. Maybe every 3 months. I feel like every 6 months might be too much time in one place, because there's so many places to see in the world that 6 months I don't have enough. If I live somewhere every 6 months for the next 30 years, I would only see 60 places. Not enough. I need to see more places, and maybe some places I wouldn't want to spend more than 6 months. But let me see what these questions are. Suzette says it would be better if you said not lazy, but becoming comfortable where anything can happen and destroy your stability. Becoming comfortable where anything. Not sure what that means. But destroy your stability. I don't know. I've gotten to a point where I was pretty broke, and I still ate. I still had shelter. I think if you have education and work ethic, I don't think there's any environment that I could be in where I can't make it. So I don't know. I don't see it that way. I truly see stability as like the thing that is sold to you your entire life through the education system, that you're supposed to achieve is stability. But that stability only serves those who are in control. They want stability. They want the predictability of an employee coming to work, of people paying their bills. I want that for sure. I want my employees to be stable, but at the same time, I'm lying, because I also challenge my employees to kind of pursue their dreams in a way, and tell them that their life isn't our company, and that our company is just a temporary state. So that's just me, man. Well, I've traveled, but a lot of places I will not live. Not buying a residence in another country is something I would explore. Yeah, I think Suzette, where would you, your stability is being free. Maybe. Yeah, absolutely. I would say being free is important to me. I wouldn't call it stability. What do you think about the real estate market in Latin America? Okay, Goliath. Now we're talking, baby. All right. So you would love London. Okay. So first, Goliath. Oh man, I'm cutting off my head. I'm crazy. All right. So I'm going to Brazil actually on Friday. I'm going to be meeting up with Yusuf, who has a channel on YouTube, and then I'm going to go in Sao Paulo, and then I'm going to Rio, the state of Rio. So I'm going to Rio de Janeiro, Búzios, Ilha de Cabo. I really like Brazil. What's cool about Brazil and most of the South American countries currently, due to this pandemic and epidemic, whatever this is that we're in, their currencies have been significantly devalued. When I went to Brazil for the first time, which was January 2019, the real, which is the Brazilian currency, was trading at 4 reais to $1. It's currently 5.5 reais to $1. So that's about a devaluation of 30%. And the cost of real estate hasn't automatically fluctuated with that, and so many people have been hit by this coronavirus slowdown that they're looking to liquidate assets at a discount. Plus, currency is the currency exchange is in my favor. Right now, I can buy a two-family house in Buzios, which is like the I don't know how to describe it. Uh, a vacation town outside of Copacabana, where kind of the affluent go, maybe the Hamptons or the Malibu in a way of the state of Rio, and I could find something for about 40,000 US dollars, 50,000 better condition, 60,000 or so. But I like to buy trash so that I can fix it up. I'm also looking at land in Buzios, and land I could maybe get like uh, uh, maybe 30,000 square foot parcel for $8,000 to $12,000, and that's going to be within like a quarter mile or so of the beach. And there's a big tourist town. There's cruise ships that stop in Buzios, so I think that's pretty good. The downside is that since those economies are not dollarized and they're working on their own currencies, the revenue is going to be a whole lot smaller than it would be for me setting up something in the States or in Europe, right? Where, or in England, where, or Australia, where currency is kind of tilted in a way, um, for obvious reasons, but it's tilted, and those dollars are worth more. So I could rent out a two-bedroom apartment in Buzios for $60, $50 a night, right? And that would be 200 something reais. That's like $200 here. It would be like 200 something reais in Brazil. That's not cheap. For us, it would be cheap, $50 for a two-bedroom apartment with a beach view. Actually, if you there's a video where I say I'm leaving the U.S. I was in Buzios at that time, and I spent about $50 or $60 for a two-bedroom apartment, ocean views. Here, that's going to cost me $200 easily in the U.S. and anywhere I stay for a similar apartment. So that gives you some context as to how much money you could earn on space. But I think if you're looking to take advantage of the current currency values and ultimately securing a very cheap lifestyle, I would do that. My properties in Italy, I paid even less for that. I got one property for 5,000, one property for 12,000 euros. So that's like, I don't know, $5,600 and $13,000 or so. At that time, of course, I benefited from the currency exchange. So, short answer, which I don't do so well, but the short answer is that I think if you're looking to secure a home for cheap, a place that you can live and feel comfortable, South America is a lot different than the Caribbean. Being from Haiti, traveling to the Caribbean, traveling to Haiti, Dominican Republic, Jamaica, um, it's different. Cuba, it's very different. It's the infrastructure is much better in the larger South American cities than I've seen in the Caribbean, and the costs are better as well. It's pretty bizarre, but that's how it is. So I would encourage it for sure. Suzette, you would love London, and you put me on to Italy. Italy is cool. I like it there. I The thing about Italy, is the landscapes, and like I guess romance comes from the idea of the Roman Empire. So like the culture of wine and being outside and enjoying music, enjoying life, that has become more or less the benchmark of Western civilization, and uh, the nations that are derived from like the Latin language, or the Roman expansion. So that's going to be Western Europe, France, Spain, Italy, Portugal, and then obviously the entire South American culture is derived from those same areas. It's pretty. I like it. I truly like it, and the cost of living is so damn cheap. It's like for 1,000 euros or 1,200 euros a month, which is pretty much the equivalent of of like a social security retirement for one person, um, you could live a decent middle class life, which is a lot different than being here in the States, at least in the cities that I've lived. Fazendas. I'm not sure about fazendas. I haven't been there, but I will Google it after we get off of this call. See if there's any other questions. I mean, that takes me to the 30-minute mark. If anybody has any other questions, please let me know. Um, fazendas. Fazendas are farms. Okay, I had no idea. That's a word I haven't learned yet. Fazendas. So like the equivalent of fincas in the northern Spanish speaking countries. So fazendas is like having your farmhouse. How much do those run from what you've seen? And how far from like cities are we talking? Goliath. Good night, Suzette. And Suzette, please, I want to kind of say one thing. I tend to challenge people's beliefs in a way, not maybe sometimes to be a bit abrasive, but usually to get them thinking. I like when people challenge whatever their convention is, um, because like I said, I think it's in that moment that your mind expands and that you're able to uh, to grow. So when I see someone who has like a counter belief to me, or like maybe a strong position on something, I like to kind of poke at it a bit to see how they defend it and to see, what's really at the core of it, and if I can prod and push it and almost trigger what's really underlying. I'm still researching. Many of them are based on a business as well, e.g., coffee beans, horse stables, etc. Cool, man. Yeah, keep in touch regarding that journey. I'm going to be documenting everything in Brazil, so I think those videos will probably launch in 2021 because there's usually like about a 3 month lag between when I film something and when I publish it. So the Brazilian things, I'll probably kind of touch in. I'm going to be doing these lives while I'm there, so maybe you could ask some questions while I'm there. But I'm going to capture uh, and tell the story in a similar way that I did with Italy. I still have to finish out my Italy projects, which start construction in 2 weeks. So that Italy experience will probably take me all the way through maybe January or so, and then right in time for like Carnival, Brazilian Carnival. Hopefully they have Brazilian Carnival this year in 2021. I will be able to kind of line up my should you move to Brazil? Mm, what is it like to move to Brazil? However, I frame that story, the Brazilian experience, Brazilian real estate. What I'm thinking of just brainstorming ideas. Is it safe to live in Brazil? Lifestyle expenses, that sort of thing. I'm gonna try to sync up with Carnival because at least Brazil is gonna be highly searched at that time, and that's just sharing you how I'm thinking about positioning information. Since Brazil is gonna be highly searched around Carnival, I think, and travel to, etc. I think I will start to rank a little higher if I'm talking about moving to Brazil and showing what is it like to be in Brazil, showing maybe tourist attractions in Brazil. So I think my Brazilian videos will release around that time. So when they do, definitely checking them out. And while I'm there, I'll be doing these lives because it's going to be during this month. So whatever information I do capture, or, or if there's any questions that you have that you might want me to ask to an agent or something like that, I'd be more than willing to. So definitely tune in. For everybody else, have yourself a good night, be well, and thank you for joining me here at ENTP Life. And make sure you like these videos and share them with people that you know, right? Because if they're liked, uh, I probably should have said this in the beginning, but if they're liked, YouTube promotes them more. If you comment, YouTube promotes it more. If you share it, YouTube promotes it more. If you find it interesting, etc. What bootstrap ways of starting a home care agency? Cheapest cost for entry to prove concept to family and friends. Hasib, that's a longer question than I would like to answer at this time. I got to go to the gym and finish up my second workout of the day. But catch me early tomorrow when I go live, and I'll definitely hit that question. But the cheapest way to prove a concept, healthcare is unfortunately not that cheap, especially in home healthcare. I think, I think, yeah, that we'll talk about that tomorrow. Just catch me early on and remind me, and then I'll kind of take a deeper dive into that. It's not a quick question I can answer, and I'm trying to get out of here. But Hasib, thank you very much for asking. See you soon. Take care.